The world of Ilum, the planet known for its illustrious kyber crystals. The planet is one of the most sacred sites in the history of the entire Jedi Order. Many traditional Jedi locations have faced destruction over the millennia, such as Ossus and even Coruscant. But Ilum seems to endure for the most part due to how secret the Jedi Order have kept it. In fact, the icy world of the lightsaber crystal is so secret that the Jedi were willing to betray the Galactic Senate in order to keep its sanctity intact. So greetings again, disciples of the Force, and welcome back to the archives. The planets of the Star Wars galaxy each have a rich history to them, those that carry immense importance to the events of a wider timeline. Many of these worlds have been under the control of the Jedi off and on for thousands of years, but although the Jedi aren't supposed to have attachments, the most enduring world under their possession is the world of Ilum, which makes sense considering it's the primary source of power that they describe as their life, the lightsaber. But there may be much more to this planet than just kyber crystals. So let's open a holocron and dive deeply into the crystalline caves to learn the secrets of Ilum. As always, we will begin with our astronomical information on the world. Ilum lies as the 5th planet in the Asar system, which was located across the threshold of the unknown regions. This was a tiny world, slightly smaller than a dwarf planet, but was considered a planet nonetheless. As the planet furthest from its star, Ilum was covered in ice and snow. Massive snowbanks covered the surface of the planet for miles upwards, until only the peaks of its mountains jutted past a glacial fixture at the very top. For the most part, because of its temperature, Ilum is uninhabited. But some life does survive beneath the surface, where a select few have managed to survive under the surface of the world where pockets of heat reside due to underlying volcanic activity. And of course, it was wildly strong in the Force as well. All of these conditions came together to make the perfect birthing place for a massive cavern of kyber crystals. Crystals that ran deeply into the planet's core. Despite all of the Jedi just having gathered their crystals from this world in all of the generations of recorded history, Ilum has always had enough kyber crystals to produce for the wider order. And Ilum has always provided the Jedi with what they needed. In the ancient days of the galaxy, the only beings to know of Ilum were the elusive gree species. The gree was an incredibly advanced species, and were prevalent around 100,000 years before the Battle of Yavin. They had already figured out hyperspace travel without the aid of Rakatan technology, and to this end, they had established an enclave on Ilum to be a launching point for their exploration into the further depths of space. They created a ship known as the Grey Secant. The ship was to be totally automated and conduct a multi-century long exploration mission, studying each of the worlds and species that it encountered. When the vessel finally returned back to the world of Ilum, and in contact with the gree around 3693 BBY, it became an icon of an almost religious significance to them. We had seen much of their technological advancements and techniques over time, but we'll get into that later. The first time that the Jedi made contact with Ilum occurred in the year 22,800 BBY, when a young Jedi scout had simply been following the Force's pull through hyperspace, eventually leading him deep into unexplored space, and Ilum. When she opened her eyes, she saw the tiny icy world of Ilum in her viewport. She immediately reported the findings back to the Jedi Council, who dispatched a survey crew to study the planet and find out why the Force was so substantially strong there. Their research came up with very little at first, until they were chased into a mountainous ravine by the local predators. It was there where they discovered the staggeringly gargantuan outcropping of kyber crystals which lay just beneath the surface of the world. And according to their probes, the planet's crust was bursting with cathrosite, mephite, pontite crystals. In Legends, all of these would be exclusively producing green or blue lightsaber blades. When the High Council learned of this discovery, they dispatched artisans, scholars, and other Jedi to protect the caves, to research exactly how deep they went. However, instead of reporting the discovery to the Galactic Senate per custom, the Jedi High Council deleted all records of Ilum from their ships and removed mention of it from all of their reports. The Council of this era deemed the world of Ilum to be important to the Jedi history and religion, since they had a monopoly on all trade of kyber crystals anyway by law. This world was far too important to the Jedi Order's development to be shared with the bureaucrats of the Senate, those that may exploit Ilum's wealth. But it is interesting that the Jedi went as far as to lie to the Senate, rather than petition for ownership or claim of Ilum. It seems that they wanted to circumvent the troubles of galactic law, and the ice that it would bring to the rich world. Then again, Ilum did technically lie outside of the Republic's jurisdiction, and was in the unknown regions. Speaking of this, a team of surveyors within the Jedi would map out a complex route through hyperspace that would take the Jedi straight from the world of Metelos to Ilum in a single hyperspace jump. Though in order to navigate the course, one would need prowess in the Force that only a trained Jedi Master could possess. This too remained a well-guarded secret of the Jedi. With the planet protected, the Jedi would build temples and enclaves over the years, and the world of Ilum became a destination of a pilgrimage for the Jedi, those intending to construct their lightsabers with Jedi Masters and meditating on the Force. The Jedi soon discovered that falling into deep meditation on the world of Ilum was much easier than nearly anywhere else in the entire galaxy, and the very world itself granted them great insight into the Force and the galaxy at large. It would be over the greatest source of crystals that the Jedi High Council commissioned the construction of the Grand Temple. The Grand Temple would stand for tens of thousands of years after its creation, and it would be the continued destination for gathering, with the gathering being the right of every Jedi Padawan to go through to attain their own unique Kyber crystal. It was a deeply personal and a formal journey, one that every student and every Jedi would have to embark on so that they could build their first lightsaber. This tradition became mainstay for the remainder of the old Jedi Order's existence, and Ilum remained a place of sanctity. For decades, Ilum remained a protected secret for the Jedi, until the time came for the Great Galactic War, when the Sith Empire attacked the planet and killed all of the Jedi that were stationed there. The Order was devastated by the loss of their sacred world, but could do nothing about it, since the Republic forces were stretched so thin across the rest of the galaxy. The Jedi suspected that the Sith wanted control of Ilum for far more sinister purposes, rather than just keeping the Jedi from their Kyber. The Sith made synthetic crystals, so they didn't have much use for Ilum Kyber anyway. This was until the truth came out that the Sith were harvesting the crystals to power weapons, including a weapon known as the prototype cloaking device that could use Kyber crystals as its source. During the subsequent Cold War, Darth Malgus attempted to establish a base on Ilum, using the Cloaked Armada, but the Sith Lord's efforts were thwarted by the Jedi. But this would not be the end of the Sith and the Jedi's dispute over the icy world. The return of the iconic gree Sagant would see the Republic and the Imperial forces striving to gain influence over the Gree people, seeing the amazing technology in their ancient ship. And the Republic and the Sith desperately wanted to learn the ship's secrets. For the vast majority of the Great Galactic War, Ilum would remain a contested world until the Jedi were able to finally reclaim it officially. Again, the High Council hid its location away and would even go further, removing all records that any battles ever took place on Ilum during the war, leaving them to fade into the annals of history as dark legends. They believed themselves to have been too careless with the secret of their precious world, so the Jedi made sure that no one would learn of its location. To that end though, the Jedi themselves would limit their contact with Ilum, delegating it only to Padawan pilgrimages and Kyber harvesting. They recalled to Coruscant all the members of the Jedi Order that were living there, and closed down every facility and enclave besides the Grand Temple. Unfortunately, despite the best efforts of the High Council though, this would not be the last time that the Ice World would see conflict. It wouldn't be until the rediscovered Sith and the time of the Clone Wars though, where things would get truly bad. Since Dooku knew the location as a former Jedi, he of course had told his new master Darth Sidious. In the year 22 BBY, the Separatists launched an ambush to destroy the caves of Ilum. Yoda, Master Luminara, and Barriss Offee desperately defended the Crystal Caverns, attacked by Separatist droids, and managed to keep the caves from totally collapsing in on itself. For a large portion of the war, the Jedi Order deemed Ilum too dangerous for Jedi initiation to travel to, so shipments of Kyber were brought directly to Coruscant, as this would be too easy of a target for the Sith to attack young Padawans. However, Dooku was not finished in impeding the Jedi's collection of crystal. No crystals means fewer lightsabers on the front lines of the war, and a crippled Jedi Order. Dooku would commission a group of Night Sisters to attack one of these shipments, wanting to steal the crystals for the superweapon known as the Devastation. The Devastation, which was basically the prototype of the ship known as the Malevolence. The attempt also failed once it was thwarted by Master Luminara Unduli. Later, 2 years into the Clone War, Ilum would be safe to travel to yet again, which would lead Yoda and Ahsoka Tano to bring a group of young Jedi initiates for their own gathering ritual. The sacredness of Ilum would be disrupted yet again by Order 66. Since the High Council formerly kept the icy world such a good secret, only a few Jedi believed that they could find sanctuary there, and some desperately fled to Ilum, believing it was one of the few safe places in the entire galaxy. And the Jedi would be right, for a period of time, as Sidious's eyes had ventured elsewhere. The Jedi that would take refuge on Ilum would include Garen Mullen, Ferrus Olin, and Phytor Anna. Garen had hidden there first, and was there for quite some time before he was reunited with the rest of the Jedi. But the Jedi before this had left Ilum largely abandoned, and the upkeep on the facilities was very low. The warmth and life support was also scarce on the world. And because of this, the Jedi had grown sick and weak by the time that Ferrus Olin arrived to build another lightsaber on the world of Ilum. He and Anna attempted to take care of the old man before Anna decided to leave for Coruscant in hopes to find more surviving Jedi. Unfortunately, the Jedi would never return, as of course the Empire already knew about Ilum, and it was only a matter of time before they found the hyperspace route that would lead them directly to it. They had the information hidden within the Jedi archives, they just had to find it. Eventually, they would dispatch the 481st Legion to eliminate any Jedi and secure the Grand Temple of Ilum, viewing it as one of the last legitimate Jedi strongholds. Once learning of the attack, Ferrus dragged Garen out of the Crystal Caves, eventually being rescued by one Obi-Wan Kenobi. After the Empire was fully established, the Empire would take full control of Ilum, forming up a beachhead around the temple and instilling a great metal door over the entrance. The army constantly monitored the facility, while the Navy formed a blockade around Ilum. The Empire was not going to let it go. Over time, research facilities and observation platforms were re-established, and an entire garrison was situated there. In canon, Ilum was quickly occupied, and a disrespectful ravaging would take place, as the Empire strip-mined the world, harvesting an abundance of kyber crystals for none other than the Death Star. The entrance to the Jedi Temple was destroyed to allow access to the Crystal Caves, and their intense mining revealed the bubbling magma underneath the crust of Ilum. The Empire literally tore Ilum apart for its resources. The Imperials would use geothermal energy from the planet's core to power their machinery and control the internal temperature of their industrial operations. Harmful byproducts were created as a result, causing destruction to Ilum's pristine ecosystem. They would completely gut the planet, making the Song of the Force produced by the crystals fall deathly silent. Luke Skywalker would later visit Ilum personally, since it was mentioned so many times in the studies that he had uncovered. He was broken when he saw it though, realizing how a sacred place of such beauty had been destroyed by the Empire. There was only pain for the Jedi there now. In Legends, we don't really get a definitive end for the world of Ilum, as Ilum continued to live past the Empire's occupation. But in canon, the world would be transformed into Starkiller Base, and Ilum would eventually be completely destroyed by the Resistance. The entire planet collapsed and formed itself into a star, and thus ends the full and complete story of the world of Ilum. It's sad that we aren't able to see a positive end for such a beautiful and an important world to the Jedi Order, but this just goes to show how drastic the Empire changed things, especially once Sidious had absolutely no regard for the thousands of years of history and importance to the Jedi, which I suppose is his own bit of revenge, especially for how the Jedi ravaged worlds such as Korriban, leaving them barren and devoid of all power. This, I believe, was direct payback for that. But at any rate, the Jedi did maintain a lot of secrecy for Ilum, and the vast majority of its history served them very well. So tell us, had you been curious about the stories behind Ilum? And are you glad that you now know more about the history of the sacred world? As always, my friends, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, a like would really help. And as always, may the Force be with you.